違う。International talks jointly hosted by Japan and World Health Organization opened Thursday in Tokyo. The discussions contain a possible global pandemic sparked by the spread of viral among humans. The two-day gathering of delegates from the nation mainly Niger, an international organization, comes at a time when concern are mounting that the H5N1 strain of avian influenza, which has been spreading throughout Asia and has recently cropped up in Turkey, could change into form, could pass easily, among humans, and potentially kill millions of people. The delegates are expected to discuss and recommend regional and international response mechanisms, such as an early warning detection system for a pandemic, and a price support for early response by different areas. Rapid containment, including plus possible public health measures such as contact and social distancing. The WHO media advisory said the events are part of an international initiative aimed at increasing global coordination before pandemic strikes. A simulation by researchers on a new type of influenza showed Wednesday that such a disease will spread dramatically by cross-strain. According to the simulation, in a city with a population of 800,000, the number of flu patients will peak in about 50 days after the infection of the first person under usual circumstances. However, when crowd training are factored in, the number of flu patients can peak 20 to 40 days earlier and increase victims overall by about 10 percentage points. International talks, jointly hosted by Japan and the World Health Organization, happened Thursday in Tokyo to discuss how to contain a possible global pandemic sparked by spread of warfare among humans. The two-day gathering of delegates from more than 30 nations, mainly in Asia, and international organizations, comes at a time when concerns are mounting. The H5N1 strain of avian influenza, which has been spreading throughout Asia and has recently cropped up in Turkey, could change into forms that could pass easily among humans and potentially kill millions of people. The delegates are expected to discuss and recommend regional and international response mechanisms, such as early warning detection system for a pandemic and operational support for early response following Asia. Organized said. Rapid containment will include the use of antiviral and snap out the threat of virus. First, possible measures such as quarantine, restriction of human movement, and social distancing. A WHO media advisory said the advancement was an international initiative aimed at increasing global collaboration and coordination for pandemic threats. A simulation by researchers on a new type of influenza showed Wednesday that such a disease which spread dramatically via crowded trains. According to the simulation, in a city with a population of 800,000, the number of flu patients will peak in about 50 days after the infection of the first person under usual circumstances. However, when crowd-training are factored in, the number of flu patients can peak 20 to 40 days earlier and increase victims overall by about 10 percentage points. Hmm. International talks, jointly hosted by Japan and the World Health Organization, opened Thursday in Tokyo to discuss how to contain a possible global pandemic sparked by the spread of warfare among humans. The two-day gathering of delegates from more than 30 nations, mainly in Asia, and international organizations, comes at a time when concerns are mounting The H5N1 strain of avian influenza, which has been spreading throughout Asia and has recently cropped up in Turkey, could change into a form that could easily among humans and potentially kill millions of people. The delegates are expected to discuss and recommend regional and international response mechanisms, such as an early warning detection system for a pandemic and operation support for early response work in Asia, organization said. Pandemic and operation support for efforts in Asia, response effort in Asia, response effort in Asia, a response, a response, response of effort in Asia, organized, organized, recommend regional and international response mechanisms such as early warning detection system for pandemic, operation support for early response efforts in Asia, organized rapid containment will include the use of antivirals. For the Asia, organized rapid containment will include antivirals, antivirals, which not further spread the virus, support early response effort in Asia, organizer said. Rapid containment will include the use of antivirals to snuff-out the spread of the virus, plus possible public, public, public health, uh, public health, K の音聞こえると思ったら C だな、これは。パブリックの C か。public health measures, plus possible public health measures. Organizer says. Rapid containment includes antivirals to snuff out the spread of virus, plus possible public health measures such as quarantine, restriction on human movement, and social distancing, a WHO media advisory said. The event is part of an international initiative aimed at increasing global collaboration and coordination before pandemic strikes. A simulation by researchers on a new type of influenza showed Wednesday that such a disease would spread markedly via crowd trains. According to the simulation, in a city with a population of 800,000, the number of full patients would be oh my god, would peak. 飛んだな今. According to simulation, in a city with a population of 800,000, would peak patient would peak patient would peak simulation in a city with a population of 800,000. The number of flu patients will peak in about 50 days after the infection of the first person under usual circumstances. However, when crowd training are factored in, the number of flu patients can peak 20 to 40 days earlier and increase victims overall by about 10 percentage points. Ah, ah, ah. National international talks. Generally, the state government Japan World Organization and Association開いた Thursday in Tokyo in to discuss how to contain 封じ込め方、パスをグローバル可能性のグローバルパンデミックスパークで指摘される場合、スプレッドで世界的大流行が引き起こされる可能性のある、恐れのある、恐れのある世界的大流行 sparked by the spread of baleful among humans. The two-day gathering of delegates from more than 30 nations, mainly Asian international organization, came through at a time when concerns were mounting. 不安が高まってます。That the H5N1 strain of avian influenza H5N1 strain of avian influenza, which has been spreading throughout Asia and has recently cropped up 突然現れる crop up in Turkey カナダじゃないトルコ could change 死後インフルエンザ could change into form 変えるかもしんねえと変えることができるかもしんねえわ into the form that could pass easily among him and potentially 潜在的に潜在的に何の可能性を秘めて potentially kill millions of people. The delegates are expected to discuss and recommend regional and international response mechanism such as an early warning detection system for pandemic and operational support. Operational support for early response efforts in Asia. 早期反応努力早期対応努力早期対応努力 in Asia organization response mechanism 対応機構 rapid containment 早期の封じ込め急速な封じ込め will include the use of antiviral to snuff out the spread of the virus. 早期の封じ込めは含んでます。使用を抗ウイルス剤 to snuff out 消滅させる snuff out the ウイルスの広まりを消滅させるそれを含んでます。プラスそれと possible 可能な public health measures 公衆衛生対応公衆衛生対策プラス possible 可能な公衆衛生対策 such as quarantine 検疫 restrictions 制限 on human movement 人流の制限まさに今と一緒だな人間の移動制限 and social distancing 社会的隔離WHO media advisory 広報担当メディアアドバイスリーセール広報担当 The event is part of international initiative initiative aimed at increasing global collaboration and coordination. 協力と調和、連携か、コーディネーション。コラボレーション、コラボレーション、コーディネーション。コラボレーションが協力だろう。コーディネーション、調和、調整、連携。Before a pandemic strikes. 大流行が襲う前に。strikes. A simulation by researcher on new type of influenza. New type of influenza showed Wednesday. A simulation showed Wednesday that showed Wednesday that such a disease would spread dramatically when the simulation by researcher on new type of influenza showed Wednesday. シミュレーション水曜日を示した。はい。such a disease そのような disease 病 will spread dramatically めっちゃ広がる by a crowd train 混雑した電車を経由してめっちゃ広まりますよと。新型インフルエンザに関する研究者たちのシミュレーションは水曜日にその種のインフルエンザを混雑した列車を介し劇的に伝播していくだろうということを示した。The simulation by research on a new type of influenza showed Wednesday that such a disease would spread dramatically by crowd trains. どう書くか。が水曜日だと。ざっと以下が水曜日ですと言ってるわけだ。According to a simulation in a city, simulation によると、in a city with a population of 800,000, the number of full patients, インフルエンザ患者の数 will peak in about 50 days. 50日で、約50日ピークになるだろう。After the infection of the first person under usual circumstances. However, when crowded train are factored in, 満員電車を加味すると、要素に入れるとき、the number of four patients can peak 20 to 40 days earlier and increase victims overall by about 10 percentage points. ああ、ああ、ああ、よし。Joint Health in Japan and World Health Organization opened Thursday in Tokyo to discuss how to contain possible global pandemic spread by spread of birth among humans. A two-day gathering of delegates from more than 30 nations, mainly in Asia, an international organization, came at a time when concerns are mounting that the H5N1 strain of avian influenza, which has been spreading throughout Asia and has recently cropped up in Turkey, could change into forms that could pass easily among humans and potentially kill millions of people. The delegates are expected to discuss and recommend regional and international response mechanisms, such as early warning detection systems, the pandemic, operation support for early response efforts in Niger, organizer says. Rapid containment will include the usual virus to snap at the spread of virus, plus possible public health measures such as quarantine, restriction on human movement, and social distancing. At WHO media, advisor said. The event is part of international initiative aimed at increasing global collaboration and coordination before pandemic strikes. A simulation by researchers on a new type of influenza showed Wednesday that such a disease will spread dramatically by crowd trains. According to the simulation, in a city with a population of 800,000, the number of patients will be about 50 days after the infection of the first person number of usual circumstances. However, when crowd training are first factored in, the number of patients can peak 20 to 40 days earlier and increase victims overall by about 10 percentage points. Uh, International talks, jointly hosted by Japan and World Health Organization, opened Thursday to Tokyo to discuss how to contain a possible global pandemic spread by the bird flu among humans. The two-day gathering of delegates from more than 30 nations, mainly in Asia, an international organization, comes at a time when concerns are mounting that the H5N1 strain of avian influenza, which has been spreading throughout Asia and recently cropped up in Turkey, could change into forms that could pass easily among humans and potentially kill millions of people. The delegates are expected to discuss and recommend regional and international response mechanisms, such as an early warning detection system for pandemic and operation support for early response efforts in Asia. Organizers said rapid containment will include the use of antivirus to stifle the spread of virus, restriction on human movement, and social distancing. A WHO media advisor said the event is part of an international initiative aimed at increasing global collaboration and coordination before a pandemic strikes. A simulation by researchers on a new type of influenza shared Wednesday that suggests disease will spread rapidly when a crowd joins. According to the simulation, in a city with a population of 800,000, the number of flu patients will peak in about 50 days after the infection of the first person under usual circumstances. However, when crowded trains are factored in, the number of flu patients can peak 20 to 40 days earlier and increase victims overall by about 10 percentage points. Uh, International talks jointly held by Japan and the World Health Organization opened Thursday in Tokyo to discuss how to contain a possible global pandemic, especially the spread of fever among humans. The two-day gathering of delegates from more than 30 nations, mainly in Asia, and the international organization comes at a time when concerns are mounting that the H5N1 strain of avian influenza, which has been spreading throughout Asia and has recently cropped up in Turkey, could change into form that are among humans and potentially kill millions of people. The delegates are expected to discuss and recommend national and international responsible mechanisms, such as early warning detection system for a pandemic and Operation Passport for early response efforts in Asia. Organizers say rapid containment will include the use of antivirals to stifle the spread of the virus, whereas possible public health measures such as quarantine, restriction on human movement, and social distancing. The event is part of international initiative aimed at increasing global collaboration and coordination before pandemic strikes. A simulation by researchers on a new type of influenza showed Wednesday that such a disease is spread dramatically via crowded trains. According to the simulation, in a city with a population of 830,000, the number of flu patients will peak in about 50 days as the infection will first person unusual circumstances. However, when crowded trains are factored in, the number of flu patients can peak 20 to 40 days earlier and increase victims overall by about 10 percentage points. Uh, Possible political measures such as quarantine, isolation, human movements, and social distancing, a WHO media advisor said. The advance is part of an international initiative aimed at increasing global collaboration and coordination before pandemic strikes. A simulation by researchers in type of influenza showed Wednesday that such a disease will spread dramatically via crowded trains. According to the simulation, in a city with a population of 800,000, the number of poor patients will peak in about 50 days after the infection of the first person of the circumstances. A crowd trial factor in the number of poor patients can peak 20 to 40 days earlier and with victims overall about by 10 percentage points. 疲れた。The joint hosted by Japan and the World Health Organization opened Tuesday in Tokyo. The discussion had contained possible global pandemic spread by the spread of birth among humans. The 2 days gathering of delegates from more than 30 nations, mainly in Asia, an international organization, comes at a time when concerns are mounting that the H5N1 strain of avian influenza, which has been spreading throughout Asia and have recently cropped up in Turkey, could change into a form that could pass easily among humans and potentially kill millions of people. The delegates are expected to discuss and recommend regional and international response mechanisms, such as an early warning detection system for a pandemic and operation support for early response efforts in Asia. Organizers say rapid containment will include the use of antiviral, a snapshot spread of virus, plus possible public health measures such as quarantine, restrictions, social distancing. The event is part of an international initiative aimed at increasing global collaboration and coordination before a pandemic strikes. A simulation by researchers on a new type of influenza showed Wednesday that such a disease will spread dramatically via crowd streams. According to the simulation, in a city with a population of 800,000, a number of flu patients will peak in around 50 days after infection of the first person under usual circumstances. However, when crowd trials are factored in, the number of flu patients can peak 20 to 40 days earlier and increase victims overall by about 10 percentage points. あー、あー、some bone marrow cells, in addition to being able to create three different types of blood cells, can also make liver cells. The finding raises the possibility of creating new liver cells for patients suffering from a range of liver diseases, while encountering the natural process of regeneration. Necra, head of the Imperial Cancer Research from this pathology unit, one of the team responsible for said, this will be particularly useful for patients whose livers have been damaged to drug side effects. Cancer where there is insufficient functioning liver remaining. He also said liver feature defective, possibly because of faulty genes, could one day be repaired using stem cells that have been given a working gene. Ultimately, it may be if it... いや、早いんだよな、この人。マジで早いって。British scientists have found some bone cells. In addition to being able to create three different types of blood cells, can also make liver cells. The finding raises the possibility of creating new liver cell for patients suffering from a range of liver diseases, through encouraging the natural process of regeneration. Nick Wright, head of the Imperial Cancer Research Fund, his discovery unit, and one of the team responsible for the find, said, this will be particularly useful for patients whose liver cells is damaged due to drug side effects, or through surgery to remove cancer that spread to liver, and where there is insufficient functioning liver remaining. He also said the liver feature defective, possibly because of faulty genes, could one day be repaired using stem cells that have been given a working gene. Ultimately, it may even be possible to regenerate a new liver. Oh. There's a possibility of new liver cells for patients suffering from diseases or of encouraging the natural process of regeneration. Nick Wright, head of the Imperial Cancer Research from his pathology unit and one of the team responsible for the find, said this will be particularly useful for patients whose livers have been damaged due to drug side effects or through surgery to remove cancer that was insufficient function liver remaining. He also said the liver feature defective, possibly because of a faulty gene, could one day be repaired using stem cells that are being given a working gene. Ultimately, it may even be possible to regenerate a new liver. British scientists have found some bone marrow cells, in addition to being able to create three different types of blood cells, can also make liver cells. The finding raises the possibility of creating new liver cells for patients suffering from a range of liver diseases, while encouraging the natural process of regeneration. Nick Wright, head of the Imperial Cancer Research Fund, his uh, the find said this would be particularly useful for patients with liver cells with damage to drug side effects. いや、こうやってみよう。Liver cancer. His, 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 histopathology, histopathology, found histopathology. Nick Wright, head of the Imperial Cancer Research for Histopathology Unit, and one of the team responsible for the find, said this would be particularly useful for patients whose liver have been damaged to drug side effects, or through surgery to remove cancer that have spread to liver, and where there is insufficient function liver remaining. He also said the liver feature defective, possibly because of faulty gene, could one day be repaired using stem cells that have been given working gene. Ultimately, it may even be possible to regenerate a new liver. Faulty gene could one day be repaired using stem cells that have been given a working gene. Repair stem cells that have been given a working gene. Have been given a working gene. Repair using stem cells. Stem cells that have been given a working gene. Ultimately, it may even be possible to regenerate a new liver. British scientists have found some bone marrow cells, in addition to being able to create three different types of blood cells, can also make liver cells. The finding raises the possibility of creating new liver cells for patients suffering from a range of liver diseases who encourage the natural process of regeneration. Nick Wright, head of the Imperial Cancer Research Fund Histopathology Unit and one of the team responsible for the find, said this would be particularly useful for patients whose livers have been damaged due to drug side effects or through surgery to remove cancer that spread to the liver, and where there is insufficient function in the liver remaining. He also said the liver feature defective, possibly because of faulty genes. Can we repair stem cells have been given a working gene? Ultimately, it may even be possible to regenerate a new liver. Researchers have found that some bone marrow cells in addition to being able to create three different types of blood cells can also make liver cells. The finding raises the possibility of raises the possibility of creating a new liver cell for patients suffering from a range of liver diseases. Uh, Liver disease overall encountering the natural process of regeneration. Nick Wright, head of the Imperial Cancer Research Fund, his pathology unit, and one of the team responsible for the find, said this would be particularly useful for patients whose liver have been damaged due to drug side effects or through surgery to remove cancer that have spread to the liver, and where there is insufficient function in the liver remaining. He also says the, the liver feature defective, um, possibly because of faulty gene could one day be repaired using stem cells that have been given a working gene. Ultimately, ultimately, it may even be possible to regenerate a new liver. Uh, International talks, jointly hosted by Japan and the World Health Organization, opened Saturday in Tokyo to discuss how to contain possible global pandemic sparked by the spread of biofuel among humans. The two-day gathering of delegates from more than 30 nations, many in Asia, and international organizations comes at a time when concerns are mounting that the H5N1 strain of avian influenza, which has been spreading throughout Asia and has recently cropped up in Turkey, could change into form that could pass easily among humans and potentially kill millions of people. The delegates are expected to discuss and recommend regional and international response mechanisms, such as an early warning detection system for a pandemic and operation support for early response floating edge. Organizer says rapid containment will include the use of antivirus, not for the spread of virus, plus possible public health measures such as quarantine, restriction on human movement, and social distancing. As WHO media advisory said, the event is part of the international initiative aimed at increasing global collaboration and coordination in the pandemic threats. A simulation by researchers on a new type of influenza showed Wednesday that such a disease was spread dramatically via crowd trains. According to the simulation, in a city with a population of 800,000, the number of flu patients will peak in about 5 days after infection of the first person under usual circumstances. However, when cloud rain are factored in, the number of flu patients can peak 20 to 40 days earlier and increase victims overall by about 10 percentage points. Ah, ah.